Yeah, because me and you had talked many times about this, that I got 420 months and I could just use all of your good time to go home.
Yeah. Well, it's good that we can laugh about these things now because we're
Sure.
both here.
Right.
You know, but there's a very good chance that neither one of us could be here for a multitude of reasons.
1,000%. You know, and they say that which is bitter to endure is sweet to remember. Well, there's also another standard that's called a preponderance of the evidence. And what a judge can do is a judge can say, based upon his beliefs of the case, he can, give you more time. And he could do that, unilaterally.
And
without a jury.
Which is crazy, again, without the
Insane
jury.
on its face.
Man, and seen it so many times. There's guys doing that got upward departures, ended up with life sentences. Al Greco's one that comes to mind.
Yep.
For stuff that they weren't found guilty of.
My friend Gigi Portella, he got found not guilty at trial, and he still got an upward departure for the murder of somebody. He got found not guilty by a jury. That's American jurisprudence. That's a fact.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is insane.
Today changes my whole entire life.
Welcome to Gritability, a podcast about the power of perseverance, overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds to attain the life of your dreams. I'm your podcast host, Adam Clausen, and with me in the studio is the beautiful and ever radiant Ro Clausen.
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. So we have an incredible show lined up for you today. A guest, dear friend of mine, joining us from a great distance, and man, he has come a long way, and we are so happy to have Johnny Bart joining us from Boston. Johnny.
What's up, brother? How you doing?
Oh, man, it is so good to have you on here today. We had an opportunity to talk just a little bit briefly.
Right. Jump right in the fire. That's what I say.
That's what I'm saying. But, man, it has been a long time coming. So grateful to see you out. We always talk about so many good people who were left behind. And when I heard you were out, man, I was excited to, have a chance to catch up with you. And as, fate would have it, we connected just yesterday. Perfect timing. We were able to get you on the show. And I'm excited to have a conversation with you and kind of fill in some of the gaps because there's plenty of things that I don't know from the last time you and I spoke. So we've got an interesting story to cover here, but I think it's always important to kind of lay the groundwork and start from like where it all began. So I'm going to turn it over to you and for you to give us a little bit of background on kind of who you are, where you come from, and how you ended up in federal prison and where we met.
Right. So first off, it's humbling, you know what I mean, to be in a forum like this, because lots of times, and I know that you can identify with this, is that me personally, I usually feel that, we come from the bottom of the barrel. I come from the bottom of the barrel. Like, I ended up in prison for 35 years, so I never figured that people would be interested in, my story, but I believe that my story has a lot of value for people because, and I would say that I would actually not even say it's my story, but my evolution, because the only thing constant is change, and I've changed dramatically from the person that I was before, just, as most things do and most people do. So I was just a young kid from East Boston, that was in like a predominantly Italian neighborhood. I grew up in a predominantly Italian neighborhood in East Boston where there was a lot of gangsters. And, I seen that kind of lifestyle and it intrigued me. I was fascinated by it. But I was always the type of kid that was running around my house, making motorcycle noises, and running around the house. And I'm like, where's this guy from? You know what I'm saying? So I always had a fascination with motorcycles. So when I was about 17, 18 years old, I started seeing, these people from Lynn. There were another neighborhood away from me who were Hell's Angels. And when I was like 18 years old, everybody knew my Uncle Bobby, who was the head of security at the Palace Complex. It was a nightclub complex in Massachusetts. It had about 12, 13 nightclubs in one place. It was the most amazing place ever. And it was right in my backyard, and my Uncle Bobby ran it. So I had the opportunity. I was there all the time. I knew everybody there. And what happened was, guys in the club started having functions at that place. And I got to know a lot of guys in the club. They asked me if I wanted to be security for their work security for their party. So that's how I kind of got into the club. And for me, growing up, I always wanted, I don't know if it was based on insecurity, and I think that was, but I always wanted to show you that I was the toughest guy in the street. I wanted to prove to everybody that I was the toughest guy around. And I think that I did prove that to everybody but myself. So, I did a lot of, at the end of the day, I was, I got indicted for a bunch of crimes, and I pled out to 35 years. I pled out because part of my plea was so other people wouldn't get in trouble, and I think that, and I explained that to you before while we were in jail, and everybody kind of knew that, but everybody looked at it as like a commendable thing. But I always just thought, when we're in jail, if you're not a rat and you're not a Skinner, that's like a bonus, but that's just base level stuff for guys like us. Everybody's like, oh, this guy ain't a Skinner, he ain't a rat. All right, well, why is that that's like saying, you're a decent human being. I'm saying that don't get you far, but it does these days in jail, but so my trajectory in jail, when I got sentenced to 420 months when, I pled out to, the killing of a rival gang member and, drugs, so that was my case. So that was it in a nutshell.
Can I just stop you there?
Sure.
Because, I think it's important, we get a lot of people on here. They're always curious, always fascinated to know about how individuals end up with crazy sentences, and they want to know how the system works.
Yeah.
We had a conversation last week with Joey Merlino about things that happen, with the feds, and when they're intent on getting individuals to cooperate, they'll do whatever they need to get a conviction. So you were part of an organization that had bullseyes all over it, right?
Sure.
I'm sure that
100%.
The feds were after you guys. And I know that there was a global plea, right? And
for most of people, yep.
And that was meant, and I'm going to say that that's another one of those tools, like the same way with my situation.
It's an interesting question. And actually, it's pretty astute of you to bring it up, because there was some subtleties in the case. Like, I got an upward departure for that murder. I didn't get found guilty. I didn't get indicted for it. The judge just said after sentencing, I believe you were responsible for it. So I got 27 years for the drugs, and then an 8-year upward departure for the killing of a rival gang member. So that was how, that's how they structured the sentence. That's a preponderance of the evidence. So most people are used to the standard where it's beyond a reasonable doubt, right? That's what everybody usually says, right? That people that aren't familiar or acclimated with the criminal system, it's usually beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the standard. Well, there's also another standard that's called a preponderance of the evidence. And what a judge can do is a judge can say, based upon his beliefs of the case, he can, give you more time. And he could do that, unilaterally.
And
without a jury.
Which is crazy, again, without the jury.
Insane on its face.
Man, and seen it so many times. There's guys doing that got upward departures, ended up with life sentences. Al Greco's one that comes to mind.
Yep.
For stuff that they weren't found guilty of.
My friend Gigi Portella, he got found not guilty at trial, and he still got an upward departure for the murder of somebody. He got found not guilty by a jury. That's
Jesus.
that's American jurisprudence. That's a
Yeah.
fact,
Yeah.
Wow.
which is insane.
It is insane. And this is the part where, you know, not too many people go to trial or end up in these situations where, you know, there's complicated cases. And so when you end up with a crazy sentence, people always want to know how, but
Right,
you don't ever really get the full explanation. And
right.
another thing that I wanted to kind of highlight here is how I've pointed out numerous times that the stacked 924Cs, like that
Like
statute,
that was that was that was a whole nother animal. But
crazy.
yeah, that firsthand, of course. You got 200. I thought it was 265 years. It was 213 years.
Only 213. Yeah.
Only, yeah, because me and you had talked many times about this, that I got 420 months and I could just use all of your good time to go home.
Yeah.
So that's the way we had that planned out. I'm saying the feds didn't go for it, but we had it planned out that way.
Man. And, you know, it's good that we can laugh about these things now because we're
Sure.
both here.
Right.
You know, but there's a very good chance that neither one of us could be here for a multitude of reasons.
1,000%. You know, and they say that which is bitter to endure is sweet to remember, right?
So true.
Good quote.
So
Yeah.
true. Yep.
So, I mean, you know, we can laugh about it today.
And thankfully,
We made it.
We did. We did. And that's something to definitely, we talked about gratitude and we'll get into that. Just, I want to point to the fact that that global plea, very, very similar. For those that don't understand, basically the offer is like everybody's got to go ahead and agree to this thing, regardless of their roles, their positions. So it's the government, again, using this tool to put pressure on this whole group to say, listen, you're either all going to take this together, or if somebody wants to split off and try and do their own thing, like we might just bust the whole thing up.
Right.
So it's another tool of manipulation to get people to go along with it. And, you know, man,
If the deck wasn't stacked against us enough in the first place, then they got to use these insidious tools. Sure. Because, you know, then people start getting mad from within. Hey, listen, I'm going to get 3 years. Well, I'm going to get 30 years. I don't want to take the 30 years. I'd rather go to trial. You know what I'm saying? So now you're pitting people against each other. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So, yeah, you're right. You're right. It's a good fact. It's a pertinent fact that you brought up.
I did want to point that out because, you know, I know that there have been comments like you chose to go along with it, and you know, you could have done otherwise. You could have tried to fight that and you know, take it to trial, but you went along, and again, it saved a bunch of people, and fortunately things worked out. So I didn't want to derail the conversation and where we were going. No,
not at all.
But I did want to touch on
the right
that.
direction.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to touch on that. So you end up with 35 years.
400. I got sentenced to 420 months. No, I went to 11. Yeah, I went to 11. Yeah, it's a monster. And the thing is, you know, so many times during that time, because you and I are alike in many ways with the workout, the diet. Everybody thinks I'm a maniac, but let me put it out there right now. You work out harder than I do, and you dieted harder than I do, and you might be the only guy in the whole system that did. There's always going to be a
hell of a
guy
compliment,
in the cage.
man.
Well, you know it though. You know what I'm saying? So when we hold ourselves to that standard in such a rigid routine, you know, I'm rigid to the point of obsession. And I was like that all the time. Benefits. So, you know, the whole time that I was in jail, I did this, you know, and I adhered to this crazy schedule. And I just used to think to myself sometimes that it's never going to end. I'm doing this. You know what I mean? So, but there was times in the bid where I was like, I just don't want to do this no more. It's too crazy of a schedule to keep. This is never going to end, because when you start with 35 years, it's a life sentence. You're never getting out. You know, so what happened is the thing that saved me is, even when I had, like, say, 10 years, I still got 20 more years to do, 25 more years to do by sentence. But what I would say to myself is, you've come this far. Why put all that work in and not keep that same pace? So that saved me. You know what I'm saying? So that really saved me. I don't know if I knew this day was ever going to come. You know what I'm saying? I didn't plan for it because I just thought it never would, I just tried to keep doing the same thing over and over again. And what saved me in prison was that, because when I came to prison, I was the smartest guy on the whole planet. Nobody was smarter than me. But when I went to prison and started to learn, how we start to apply ourselves to education. Like, I wish I had the Benjamin Button effect with education, because if I was as diligent as I am with education now, back then as I am now, I'd be I'd be a professor. But I mean, the thing is I just started to apply myself, and I started to realize how stupid I really was. I went from being the smartest guy on the planet to the stupidest guy on the planet. That's when I started to educate myself. So, I mean, my crowning achievement in my whole life is that, and I don't want to diminish or curtail the help people have given me over the years, but I taught myself Spanish. I had no formal training, but, I taught myself, but a lot of people helped me out along the way, but I could say that I'm self-taught. So that is like the crowning achievement in my life. Before that is when I went to school in jail, and I took trigonometry, and I got an A in it. And I thought I couldn't do that stuff. Yeah. I thought you needed a pistol to rob money when I was a kid. That's why I did all that stuff. I used to see the cops with their feet up on the desk and say, I didn't know it was this easy. I thought you needed a pistol to rob money. They're like, nah. So, but that was just my mindset when I was a kid. And I really had like a fear of, doing anything that took effort. So that's why I was the person that I was. And that's why I was a wild kid, Adam. Like, you know what I'm saying? I just was in the middle of the street. I wanted everybody to see me doing what I was doing.
I get it. I totally get it. And man, you came in, you were young. How old were you when you caught that 35 years?
So,
26, turning 27. We're having a little bit on your volume. Your volume's cutting in and out just a little bit. So 26, turning on 27. You come in 35 years. Like, at what point you said, the rigidity of your routine, like just being so structured, so focused, and you and I are very much alike like that. And we recently...
I wish I looked as good as you. Okay.
Oh, you do. I saw the pictures. Listen, we're going to post those pictures, man. You're looking great. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, listen, that's a lot of inspiration. It's a lot of inspiration. And I'll tell you one thing, you and guys like Kevin. But when I was in Leavenworth and, in places like that, I was wild. You know what I'm saying? I was wild.
And that's what I wanted to ask you about. Like, coming in, you got 35 years, you still got that street mentality. Like,
I got a foot in 80X. I'm gonna be here forever.
Yep. So coming back, we were talking about you got your 35 years. You come into Leavenworth. You're still thinking, basically from the streets, come into prison, not even thinking about making it to the end of this. Like, how does that transition start to happen?
So, like, basically when I meet Kev.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So when I meet Kev, and by extension, and I start seeing like, wow, instead of being like abrasive, instead of, you guys knew everybody, and that you knew all the offices as well. And it wasn't like any kind of bad thing. It was just like, they let you bring the weights downstairs. We had the water bags, let you bring the water bags downstairs. We stored them in the cellar. Kev was out shoveling the snow, and he was like, I'm going to give you a one-on-one and bootlicking, kid. You're going to be able to get done whatever you want to get done. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of just see like, and then because of Kev, kind of like, if you remember, I sent a letter to Kev before I even got there. To get me, I needed a cell and a job, and Kev knew a bunch of my people from Cleveland. So by the time I got there, he was telling all, the cops, oh, this guy coming, he's a great guy. But so everybody knew me and they were like, hey, Johnny Bart, hey, Johnny Bart, So that kind of started the ball rolling. And like, so from then on, it was like anywhere I went, I was like, I used to buff the floors in the warden's office. I used to be in the center hall. And I'd be like, I had a warden up in Berlin. I was like, hey, listen, get me out of quarantine. It was coronavirus, the worst thing that ever happened to prisons.
Yeah.
I was like, get me out and I'll buff all your floors. That's all you got to do is just get me out of this cell. Let me get onto the camp and I'll buff all your floors and I'll wax them. And he let me out and he took me up on it. And I was up for like 3 nights doing all the floors. I was like, all right, I guess it was worth it though. But yeah, so that was kind of the turning point with you guys.
Well, listen, I've said it numerous times. I don't know who I would be or where I would be today without Kev's influence. I was very fortunate when I came into Allenwood at the beginning of my sentence, and
you were with Kevin Allenwood.
Yeah, I was acting crazy, and
no, I get it.
But Kev saw
smoking cigarettes, doing pull-ups. I know.
Hold this for a second. I got to go run a mile. I'll be back. Hold it. I'd come back, smoke some more, and I'd go, take a bag, drink a bag of wine, get under the, get juiced up, and start working out. And Kev saw something in me, thank God, and was like, hey, man, listen, there's a better way to do this. You've got a lot of time. Like, you might get a break someday, but it ain't going to happen anytime soon. So you're going to have to figure out how to do this time. He said, and this is a good space where I can see, like, I just had something in me that I had to get out. And that was my place to do it. That was my constructive outlet. And fortunately, Kev was very much on the same time, but he was already 10 steps ahead, right? So he carved out physical space in prison, which we all know is extremely valuable. Real estate's valuable out here, but in there, it's everything. So Kev carves out space, allows me into that. He's doing his classes, brings me in. And the other thing, that he taught me early on was about building those relationships, the importance of it. Even
number one thing in life.
Absolutely. Even with those staff members, whether it was the warden, whether it was the cop, working down in rec, he knew how to interact with them.
That guy had a pass everywhere.
Yeah.
Like he was, he's as solid as they come. He's been in jail since '84. They still won't let him out today. So if that's indicative of how solid the guy is, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, so we're talking about Kevin McTaggart anyway, a dear friend of ours was in. I went to prison in '96. Kev was already there 12 years and he's still there today. So and I know, that you can, put yourself in his shoes, that could be you tonight. That could be me tonight.
Very
and it's almost
easily.
Like the guy in the plane crash that didn't make the plane that day in the plane crash. That's how I feel sometimes with Kev. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I should be really the guy that's in prison still. Yep. Kev was like, I mean, and everybody loved Kev from staff to inmate, you know what I'm saying? So, and I mean, it's just, so it's almost tragic really, because we know how, especially with age, how we change. And it's a marked change. It's a dramatic change. My whole philosophy of life, as you talked about building relationships, I went from living a complete antisocial life to living a prosocial life, because relationships bring you wealth, and not just financial wealth. They bring you some of the greatest people that ever walk into your life. Just great people just come into your life if you remain open to letting people into your life. And there's no investment. You see how it goes.
Yep. See, and
so I think that's. Go ahead, Dan.
I was just going to say, those environments aren't meant to promote prosocial behaviors. They are designed to keep individuals at odds within the population, and it's meant to be an adversarial relationship against staff. And what you end up with is people being extremely antisocial, and then we go,
100%.
What's wrong with that guy? But I was that guy. When I got to McKean, Kev knew I was coming. Same thing, same as you. He had word that I was on my way. I get off the bus. Now, I went through Allenwood when it went through a major transformation. They put up the fences. They shipped all the gangs there before they opened up SMU in Lewisburg.
Right.
Just a horrible experience. I end up at McKean. Kev walks me over to the unit. I got my bedroll. He's like, I got a cell right next to mine. I go over. I'm like, man, this is great. I go in, I sit down with he and Mikey, his celly's Mikey at the time. And 2 minutes later, I hear the chairs, like the chairs shuffle. And I jump up and I'm at the window and they're looking at me like, what the hell is wrong with you? I'm like, what's going on out there? They're like, no. It's not that kind of place. And I realized like I am so conditioned, I'm so programmed from that environment that I needed to decompress. And I don't know how I would have handled that transition if Kev wasn't there and kind of helping to talk me through and again, set the example, model those things that I needed to see, those prosocial behaviors, and show me what was possible. Like otherwise I would have probably stayed at odds for quite a bit longer and not been able to take advantage to all the other opportunities that were then presented. I wouldn't have been ready for them.
That's right. 100%. And so that was a turning point in my life as well, where, I always had a thirst for knowledge. When I first came to prison, I started to read. When I was in the penitentiary, I started to read about history and I started to read a lot. But, what I did later on in my bid was, for me, nothing short of amazing. I took courses at Ohio University. I passed algebra, trigonometry, pre-calculus, and, I had a business. I went specifically to Fairton to get a business degree from the local community college there. And then, when I started to learn Spanish, and I was so fascinated with it that I just studied hours and hours a day, watching TV, listening to the novellas, talking to people. I devised 2 curriculums in 3 different institutions, and for ACE class, adult continuing education class, I have introductory Spanish. So I devised 2 curriculums for 2 separate, prisons that I was at. Graduated over 200 people, and because when education gives you a sense of purpose. It gives you a sense of worth, So, I'm not the type of guy like, I always felt great. I always, was always in a good mood. I was always upbeat, but I stretch a lot and I do a lot of yoga, and I always use the term, like, I want to always try to find my center. So that really did that for me. So when I began to educate myself, I really, like I said, realized how stupid I was. Because everybody's like, wow, you speak Spanish. That's crazy. Then I think to myself, what about the guy that speaks 7 languages? Now that's impressive. So there's always, more that you could do. But so I just think that, guys like you and guys like Kev, that was the turning point in my life. And I seen that I can excel in areas other than, being a thug. Like, I thought that was the quickest way to make money. You know what I mean? The quickest way to from point A to point B was like, take it, But and I started to realize, and as I got older, and, some events happened in my life. So when my brother Ronnie died, I was in Lee County Penitentiary. And I remember, the case manager was coming to look for me. And, she needed me to make a phone call. And you know how, like, nobody's coming to you to make a phone call, right? Yeah. You could never get one. You could put requests in. You could, take you months to get a phone call. But when they're looking for you to make a phone call on a Sunday, it's bad news, And, I found out, my father had told me, look, I just got off the phone with my father. I was getting the lines for the basketball game. And I was getting all the lines for the ticket. I was running the ticket over there. I was making, getting all the lines, just getting them off the phone from my father. Talked to him 5 minutes ago. 10 minutes later, he's telling me that my 39-year-old brother died. So it was probably that was like, it was an episodic depression, but I felt like the ground was pulling me down. And you have these times in your life when, like, so I murdered somebody. I killed a guy on a bike. I ran him over and killed him. And, the reality of that never hit me until my own brother died. And I seen how my mother acted, you know what I'm saying? And, when you talk about having empathy, I'm saying from having none to having like too much. So
Uh-oh.
Oh, no. Can you hear us? We lost your audio again.
Just completely shut off.
Oh, that sucks. It was such a good story.
It should just be the mute button.
how did you know?
How did you know that?
One more time.
Yeah, that's why you're the engineer.
I don't know how that
That's
happened.
why guys get big money. I don't know how it just flashed across my screen. It was an epiphany. You see what I'm saying? But what I realized was that I myself had made people feel the way that I was feeling. So, when they say, same shit that'll make you laugh, make you cry. So this was one of those instances where, like violence got me everywhere that I wanted to be in life, and it was no difference, with that episode, and I always wanted to be that guy. But so when that happened to me and my brother died, and I started to really look at things, and I started to juxtapose certain events with the death of my brother, I started to really become aware of, I'm not going to say, the morality of it, but I guess in a sense, the morality of it, I'm saying. So I know that when we engage in certain things, right? So when we're in a chess match and we're playing chess, when you put me in checkmate, I'm not going to flip the board over. I'm going to just say, hey, good game. You got me. So those are the things that happen on the street when we're involved in that. Those things happen, and, we're the type of people like, women and children are sacred, but whatever else happens. We're engaged in whatever. But when I looked at that stuff and I looked at the conduct and especially my violent behavior with people, I never really put two and two together. But now that when that happened, I did. So I started to see things, and it's all about perspective for me. I always have perspective. And, I believe that, that was a dramatic shift in my life.
Sure. That makes perfect sense. And I love what you say about perspective because, it's been my experience in so many individuals like us that have done a lot of time on the inside. And most of us went in when we were young, right? And it's a very
kids, children,
very different mentality, right? Being out there in the streets, come in and be forced to sit down and then go through some experiences where we don't really have control over them, but they force us to mature in different ways and shift our perspective. And every single person that I know who's been through that, done that time, comes out the other side very different, much more empathetic. And I think that's just part of life, right? And it speaks to the need that we have to better address, the issues with our system, because we're putting people away for these sentences are absolutely insane, right? And it's the time in there is not what does it, right? Each of us has kind of come to it in our own means, had our own experiences, and it's more or less by chance. It's not like the system is designed to help you mature and have these experiences. The things that you did, teaching those classes, finding your own intellect and your desire to learn, those were things you did on your own. And I want to make sure people know that You know, the system's not set up to do that. It's not meant to promote it. You were going against the grain every step of the way. It's not like people made it easy for you to go to college, right?
Right. Definitely not.
You know, and when people talk about club fed, I get a little upset sometimes. I'm like,
Sure.
you have no idea what you're talking about. And for individuals like yourself to accomplish what you've done, I mean, is pretty extraordinary. And to come out the other side, not just with the perspective, but the positivity that you have and the level of gratitude, because really that's kind of where we started.
Right.
You know, in our text
No,
back
I
in
appreciate that. That's a gift. It's a gift. It really is a gift. I say if you could bottle and sell what I have, you'd be a gazillionaire, because I just feel amazing every day. I felt great in prison. I just did my routine.
Yep.
I started but out here it's a whole nother animal. You know what I'm saying? It's just I'm so grateful for just every little thing in my life. And it's the people. They always say, like, oh, there's no more solid people in the world. I got a bunch around me. I got some of the best people on the planet around me. And that. I don't know what I did. I like to think it's a testament to who I am, but really, I don't know if anybody could have that many in one lifetime. So it's amazing to me. And the people are second to none in my life. And it's beyond my wildest dreams. I used to sit back and think in prison, well, I'm going to have a big party. It's going to be my friends are going to be there. There's going to be people I don't even know. They're going to say, oh, I heard about you. But it pales in comparison to the welcome that I had here in society. So I'm just tremendously blessed. I just feel, that, I wrote a book. I wrote about 700 pages and in prison. And in the foreword to my book, I say that even if it's the 10 people that I love that, read this book, I just want you to realize that my mother and father are reading every line over your shoulder and they're clapping at every paragraph, So, but I always think it's them. And Adam, you know what? For me, I lost my parents when I was in jail, and I feel like I sold my loyalty to people I didn't know at the expense of the people that I loved and gave me theirs freely. So it doesn't sit well with me. It's very uncomfortable that I think of that, and the people that I did give my loyalty, I would never take that back. It's who I am. But I really feel really uncomfortable that when I think of it in terms of, if you're going to be loyal to your family first. My mother and father that sacrificed, and I wasn't, and I lost them. And I wasn't there to bury them. I wasn't there when they were sick. No, that's something I got to live with, but I think that I kind of live with the philosophy that if I did one thing today, all I want to do is when I get out of bed is, if my mother could say one time in the day that, oh, I'm so proud of you. That was so nice. You held that door for that guy. Or you didn't, react the way you used to react. Or you're just a good guy. And you were helpful to people and you took your time to say hello to somebody. You didn't lose your temper. Anything, one thing out of the day, if I can feel that my mother said that I'm proud of you, then that's just such a productive day.
Man, I
for
feel
me.
like everyone needs to live their life like that. How beautiful.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So,
Well, listen, I am sure, without a doubt, they are both very proud of you. And I think everybody is interested to know what's next. So what are you going to do? You're in the federal halfway house. I see the
Right.
shirt that you're wearing. You just talked
Yeah,
about the book that you wrote. Like, tell us what's next.
Yeah. So, really, I love doing stuff like this. I love talking, I love engaging. And I told you this, that I really enjoy it, that if people like us who have this collective experience, that was something that we can laugh about now, right? But that, it was a fight every day we fought, saying that's it. It was a fight. And, whatever form the fight takes, you fight it. And I always tell people, if it's your 13-year-old daughter you're having a disagreement with, or, the biggest guy in an alleyway that's coming after you, every day's a fight. And as long as you have the gumption to fight that fight every single day, you're going to be all right. Just fight it. Never get tired. Just always fight the fight. But, in whatever form it takes, So for me, I want to just remain teachable. You know what I'm saying? That's what helped me learn Spanish. I was the smartest guy on the planet. You couldn't tell me nothing. You know what I mean? But I had to make a decision to say, like, oh, is that how you say that? Oh, man, I appreciate it. What else can you teach me? So now I have, I'm working for a friend of mine that has a tile company, and, we're in the trades, and, I'm learning. We're working every day. I like going to work, 5-6 days a week. I started my own clothing line, 27 straight. And if you go on my Instagram page and press 27 straight, it'll take you right there, but it's something I did on my own. It's something that I just came up with a concept, right? So 27 years, STR8, 27 straight. And I wrote it down a couple of times. And, my brother Charlie, he's got an accounting office, and he was like, hey, I had some shirts for a party up there. Why don't you sign them and try to sell them? I'm like, nobody going to buy them. So I did it, and everybody bought them. You know what I mean? So I just went into this thing, and I was like, oh, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll do it. And I went, I talked to a friend, and we did a couple things, and I had a couple ideas. But it's something, again, I never want to diminish or curtail the help that people have given me, ever, because it's without people and without the relationships I've built, I'd be in the Boston Common under a piece of tinfoil sleeping tonight. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I would be. I'm left to my own devices. So I have a lot of people that are helping me, but it's something that I did on my own with a little bit of money that I got. And then, I kind of bought some stock and put some money in the bank and bought some more stock. So that's where I'm at with that right now. And the sky's the limit for anything. You know what I'm saying? Because I got great people in my life.
Well, I'm a firm believer too that great things happen to great people, and no doubt the path that you're on and being surrounded by other great people, it's going to continue to roll your way. I'd be remiss if I didn't point this out, because you and I spoke about this briefly earlier. Right now, there's a ton of interest on social media, right? Like this whole genre around crime and people who are doing time, have done time. The public's just fascinated, right? So people are going to love hearing more about your story. And when I contrast what's currently out there, all these individuals being exposed, Wes Watson's one of them, right? Like I kind of laugh, but part of me is like, man, how have people been so fooled by all these people out there talking crazy, and they're promoting, it's just stuff that's not true. And then here you come, being your authentic self, telling it like it really is. I believe that there's a huge market for that. I believe that that's what people really want to hear. And, all that other stuff, like that may have been flashy for a moment, but it's going to get old quick. And they're going to want to hear more about how individuals like us not only made it through that time, but stayed positive, stayed disciplined, were able to accomplish those things, and came out the other side more stronger, more resilient, positive, grateful for every day, for everything that we've been given.
I don't want to be the tough guy anymore. All them tough guy stories. We could tell them. We could talk about, and maybe we'll get into talking about what the things that we did, and about, the wars over TVs, and we can get into all that, and those make interesting stories. You know what I'm saying? But I want to be the guy. I wanted everybody to know who I was and see me, to the guy that walks down the street with his head down. Hey, how you doing? Hey, good morning. You know what I'm saying? I don't want nobody to know who I am. You know what I mean? So, insofar as society is concerned, of course, notoriety for this type of stuff, if there's a demand for the content, sure, I'm your guy, because you know what the bottom line is? I took a 35-year bid like a champ, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? And walked through it every single day like a champ. Like, even if you're sucking your thumb on the inside, you know what I'm saying? If somebody meets me one time, I want them to take away like, that's a good dude right there. That's a solid dude right there. You know why? Because my mother and my father, God rest their soul. But I'll tell you one thing that never happened. Nobody ever said, "Oh, how you doing, Barbara, Charlie?" Oh, that piece of shit. Nah, they were like, "Hey," no. Nobody ever could say anything bad about me or my family because I wouldn't allow that to happen. My father says, in court, he says, men do man things. What are you going to do? 30 years out, 30 years in, 30 years out. Okay, what? And that was it. So, I'm saying authenticity. My favorite word in the American lexicon is genuine. That's my favorite word. I love it. If you're genuine, it's you being yourself without even trying. This ain't a story. This is an evolution. This is my trajectory. And who I am now is nothing like who I used to be. And there's value in that.
There is, no doubt. And I believe that there is also a market. There's a value not only in it for you, for all of those around you, but I am confident that there is a market that will see that value as well. So we definitely want to make it a point to direct everyone over to your social media pages. We're gonna post those up. We're gonna make sure that everybody who's watching this episode, that you go over there, check out Johnny Bart on his official page, check out his merch, and that book. I know that book is going to get done. It's going to drop.
It's badass. I mean, it's just because it's just a compilation of great prison stories. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and
when I took a couple of years to put it together, and it's hilarious. But go ahead.
Well, I'm sure we can do another episode and talk about those.
Absolutely.
Those other entertaining stories, because I know you
we got a bunch of them. We got a bunch of them.
So we can do another episode and we will talk more about those. But I'm really grateful that you were able to join us today. You're out on a pass, man. You took some precious time.
I gotta go. I'm on a pass. I gotta get back before they call me at the house.
Man, go get it. We're so grateful you joined us. It's been another incredible episode of Gritability, the power of perseverance, overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds to attain the life of your dreams. You saw it right here. Johnny Bart live in the flesh. Ro and Adam Clausen, we are out of here. We'll see you back here on the next episode.
Awesome.